Good evening, all of you. Welcome back to the last session of the day. This session is all about business incubation process, and we have Dr. Radhika Meenakshi Shankar ma'am here, who will be sharing about this topic. She has been into this field, as you know, she is into this field for several years, especially in the process of incubation. She has helped so many institutions to build their incubation process and systems. So we thought she is the right person to help us, help all the faculty, guide us in this process of how we can build incubation at our respective institutions. So thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us again. Over to you.
So, good afternoon once again, and post lunch, you've been listening, we've been listening to a lot today on various aspects of the ecosystem. And we last saw a session on mentorship and how we could be great mentors. And as a finale, what is incubation and what is an incubator? And many of you would be having an incubator in your campus. Some of you may be in the process of acquiring a business incubator in your campus. But I would like to start off this session by asking you if any of you have an incubator in your campus. And if so, what is the name? Please unmute and talk. No? Type in case you are not wanting to speak. Okay. Okay. What do you understand by the word incubator? Why is nobody answering? Or is it the fact that my mic is not all right?
The mic is all right, ma'am.
Mic is all right. Okay. Then please answer me in your own words. What is an incubator? A sacred place.
Incubation is a place where idea can get converted into a concept.
Onto an actionable project. Okay. A space to support the beginners. Okay. Okay. So any of your a hand-holding facility to support ideas to full-fledged businesses. Fair enough. Any of your colleges having an incubator? If you have, just type yes and the name of your college. Okay. Sindhu, you don't have to type no incubator. If you have an incubator, type yes. Rishi College, Hyderabad. Okay. Okay, Rishi UBR. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. So let's cut the long Pinky, yes. Pinky, which college? Pinky, were you there in my FDP by any chance in Ahmedabad? CP Patel.
This is the first time I'm listening you.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so there are two incubators in this group. Well, to cut the long story short, let's start with an incubator. Is officially the word incubator is a machine that helps newborn babies born before the time to be nourished like a mother's womb. So the machine keeps the baby warm, supplies the food, and treats the baby with complete care and nourishment like a mother's womb till the baby is ready to come out and breathe on its own. Take the same to a new business enterprise. There is a great fall rate for startups. Nearly 92% of the startups fail, and this is a proven number. And they fail and they rise up again. So there are many who rise up. So, but the fact is that about 92 to 94% of startups fail, and 42% the reason why they fail is because the market does not need their products, which means they just make products which they like and not what the market wants. Nearly about 25% to 20 plus odd percentage of startups fail because of cash crunch, because cash flows are not planned well. And the third biggest reason why startups fail is because there is a conflict in the team. So team conflict, management conflict. Now, these are all the reasons why startups fail. But nevertheless, because of this high rate of failure and the fact that they can spring back into action once again if helped, they need direction, help, and that's why business incubators have come into focus. So business incubator is a space totally devoted to startup development. Today morning, we saw the 4 phases of entrepreneurial development of ecosystems in campuses. And in the 4th phase, I said once the students are very engaged and involved in entrepreneurship, they would be inspired to start up. And therefore, we require the 4th phase in any campus is to create an incubator where these startups can be incubated. So an incubator, as I have been telling you, is a space that has been created specifically in order to incubate startups, nourish them, handhold them, and support them till they are ready to move out and live as a standalone successful enterprise. This entire time could last for a year, and in some places even 6 to 7 years, but the traditional one is about a year to 2 years max, where they are housed and given all the amenities, support, etc., in order to survive, because the first 3 years are the most difficult ones. Today, we are going to talk about what is an incubator, kinds of incubators, and a specific focus on campus incubators. Now, what's happening? 1 minute. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, 1 second. No, my slides are not moving. That's why I'm looking. Okay. 1 second. Just a minute. Okay. So when we're talking about entrepreneurship development, which is what we've been doing all these past few days, is that it is a source of job creation, financial stability, new product creation, competitiveness, and economic growth. But when we look at it, how do we go about doing it? Okay. We have to first understand that you must have, and during this course, seen this hockey stick, that startups go through a particular methodology of growth. Now, if you see the chasm that is there, like the hockey stick, now that's the chasm that when startups fall, find it difficult to wake up. Though the slide is basically the stages of financing of various stages of startup, I just wanted to show you the hockey stick and tell you that by the time the startup actually starts breathing and break even and start making money, it is this chasm that they have to be careful. So usually the incubator comes to help during this chasm period. Post that, they grow. And then they go through accelerator system. We will just come to the difference between an incubator and accelerator a little while from now. But it is this chasm that we are talking about, where it is from an idea stage till it actually starts rolling out the product commercially, that you require this incubation. There are many risks associated, and I told you and I talked to you about some of the chief reasons why it fails. But let us also look at what are the risks associated with startups, right? The first and foremost is the business risk. Now, the business talks to you about the strategy, the managerial experience that people have, the way expenses are handled, and how you take in your expenses, how fast you pay them, your cash policy, all those things. When you look at operational risks, is your systems, your operations, and your manufacturing process, your supply, your vendor management, your internal systems, etc. When you look at the market risk, it is the how you create a value more than your competition. When you look at financial risks, it is your ability to pay all your dues and your leveraging capacity on how do you pay your interest and yet make money. When you talk about organizational risks, we are talking about your structuring of your business. We are talking about your resource allocations. We are talking about your communications, etc. When we talk about technical risks, we are talking about all the technology that is being used. And of course, the infringement of your intellectual property rights are some of the other things. So suppose if you're licensing some software and that cost may be too much for you to bear. So these are all basically some of the risks associated. And as a startup, we need to understand that there are many of these risks, and these risks have to be managed. And we all know that risk and return are, correlated. And therefore, we need to be very careful in structuring our business to manage these risks. How well we manage the risks also pushes the startup on the trajectory of success. One of the things that incubator does is help you in risk management and to combat risk. And how do you mitigate these risks? Morning, we already saw the startup ecosystem and how it comprises of. When we look at the definition of an incubator, we are looking at, why is this? 1 second. When we look at the definition of the National Business by the National Business Incubator Association, a business support process that accelerates the successful development of a startup and the fledgling companies. Fledgling is newborn companies, by providing entrepreneurs with an array of targeted resources and services. Now that's where I would like to concentrate, array of targeted resources and services. What all do you get? What all does an incubator offer? A well-managed business incubator offers a lot of services which they consciously develop and make it a part. And that is why you'll find that they support by giving a lot of things. What all they give? They give space, they give money, they give, seed money. They give mentors, they give experts, they conduct training programs, they give space for you to work with. Then there is some common, like a meeting space. Then they give some short-term courses which you can do. Then they give you access to library, networks, labs, all those things. they give also some facilities like attending meetings or conducting meetings, and of course they have legal services, accounting services, and they have common office staff to help you with some clerical and administrative work. So these are a host and array of services that are offered by an incubator. And the more robust these services are, the more comfortable are these startups. The question is, what is the degree of support should an incubator give? It should be just enough for the startup to use it and breathe on its own and get out. But sometimes the startups start depending on the incubator, and therefore then it becomes difficult to hive them off and move them out of the place because they get so used to the comfort of an incubator. So they feel it's difficult to go stand on their own, or they feel they are very weak, and therefore they can't survive on their own. So how does it help companies to survive in early stages? As I already told you, they help by providing bookkeeping and accounting and other administrative services. They provide Wi-Fi, photocopiers, typing pool, conference, advice, mentoring, network facilities. I've already talked to you about all these things, right? So they help in management guidance, technical assistance, consulting tailored to the needs of a new enterprise. That's very important. It is just not gyan, but it is more tailored to individual needs, and therefore it becomes very important. The goal of a business incubator is to produce successful firms that leave the program when they are financially viable and freestanding. That's when you exit out of an incubator. When a startup becomes financially viable and freestanding, which means it can be independent and work on its own. There are different kinds of incubators. There are government incubators. Now, 100% owned government incubators like our T-Hub in Telangana, right? It's totally owned by the government. Now, if you look at Startup India, the fund of funds that has been started by the government of India, basically they are to incubate all startups and develop the startup ecosystem. So basically it's like an incubator for the entire startup ecosystem in our country. It is totally owned by the government, and it helps all the government schemes targeted to help startups. When you look at private, which means solely owned privately, we have various kinds of accelerators and incubator services formed by, let's say, a Vadvani Foundation or a Deshpande Foundation. Now, Deshpande Foundation, they have one of the largest incubators in Hubli. They have one sandbox in Kakatiya Sandbox Incubator in Nizamabad here. And if you look at Khosla Labs, started by Vinod Khosla, one of the co-founders of Sun Microsystems and one of the earliest Indus US based Indian entrepreneur from Silicon Valley, who founded the Sun Microsystems. So Khosla Labs is another very big incubator which usually looks at social impact startups. So these are all private, which are owned privately, and they run to support the entrepreneurial ecosystem. But you will see that there is a lot of what is called as campus incubators or university backed incubators. Now, university backed incubators could be on a standalone, could be on a private public partnership mode, PPP mode. So you have many things like J-Hub, which belongs to the JNTU University. J-Hub is the incubator for this university, which has more than 175 technical colleges affiliated to it across Telangana. The CIE-IIITH, which again is a very well-renowned university-backed incubator in Hyderabad. Of course, I can always talk to you about the IIIT Sine, Bombay, the IIIT Kanpur. So all these colleges have their own incubators, and there they nourish startups that come out of their university. Now, one of the best known and well known Stanford University Incubator, STVP, actually housed Google, and they took a share in Google to house Google in its initial stages. Usually the revenue model, we'll come to it a little while from now. How does an incubator make money? They collect some fees from these startups after a certain stage, or they take a stake in the equity of the of the startup. So Stanford Venture had actually, the incubator had taken a small share in the equity of Google. And as you know, they were the alumni of Google. And when they exited out in terms of putting Google on an IPO, Stanford Incubator made a cool $336 million. Now, this is in 2005. Now, if you look at this, that is the power of an incubator. So in India, we have a lot of campus incubators sponsored by the Department of Science and Technology or sponsored by the Ministry of Small and Medium Enterprises and MeitY, Ministry of IT, AIC, Atal Innovation. All these things are all sponsored by government departments. You also have totally corporate sponsored incubators like the NASSCOM or the SAP Labs. You know, SAP Labs based out of Bangalore. They are also into incubating. Microsoft Labs or the Infosys incubators. So these are all sponsored by these big corporates, and usually the focus of this incubator is basically those startups that will help their companies grow faster. So there is various kinds of incubators, and we need to concentrate a little bit more on the university backed, or which is also called as the campus incubator. Where are these incubators located? Incubators are located at business parks, technology parks, science parks, commerce and industrial zones, and of course, universities and academic institutions, right? Why is the location important? The location is important because incubator requires a lot of facilities to be created. And to create these facilities, you require a little bit of, it's like some of these self-contained residential colonies, which has everything, right? Some of the senior citizen colony like that. So for example, let me give you some of the incubators, which there is one called ALEAP, which is the Association of Lady Entrepreneurs of Andhra Pradesh, now known as Association of Lady Entrepreneurs of India, ALEI. They're one of the largest incubators totally devoted to women entrepreneurs. And if you look at them, they have their own industrial estate, which houses more than about 150 women-led factories. And in this is the center where they have their incubator. So in these incubators, they incubate the women enterprises related to many fields, basically food processing, or they look at textiles and textile operations. So whether it is textile printing or stitching ready-made garments and washing textiles. So these are all various parts to textile management, and the incubator provides all these machineries. Today, ALEAP has also forayed into biotechnology, and they help in fermentation. They have a fermenting machine, they have paper. So what they do is, by putting a set of all these machines, a newborn can actually go and practice for a couple of months, and practice on this. And once they are quite well practiced, they can then branch out by taking a space on rent and going out. If you look at the National Small Industries Corporation, NSIC, they, for 5,000 rupees, I remember when I was in Delhi, NSIC over there in Delhi, and I'm so sure there is an NSIC branch in every state capital, offers this program for 6 months where you pay 5,000, and in 6 months, the NSIC will take you through an array of machineries and working and manufacturing process. For example, how do you make nails? How do you bake breads in a large scale? How do you, do packing, cutting of aluminum foils, sheets? So it's a hands-on practice on how to make these products. Okay. And then after these, during these 6 months, after 3-4 months of learning all these things and looking at it and getting exposed, you can choose 1 or 2 which you feel would be the thing that you would like to venture in. Then they put you on into a real-time factory. Now let's say you choose aluminum foil as one of your choices. Then they will put you in an aluminum foil company that is actually manufacturing and is a big producer of this, and you can work there for a month. Then the incubator over there in NSIC links you to the machinery manufacturing guys who manufacture these foiling machines and give you the supplier's name. They help you with getting a loan from the bank and all these things, which means as an incubator, they're helping you in every single step. And then they teach you how to prepare your business report. And then once you are set, they help you find the location. And the cream of doing this government courses, that you immediately become a vendor for the government. You have to understand the government in India, 20% of government purchases as per the procurement policy of the government of India should be purchased from registered micro, small and medium enterprises. So the fact that you are trained under this NSIC and you get the certificate from NSIC that you are an entrepreneur created from this program automatically makes you a part of the vending. You don't have to pay the basic amount for some, I think for a year or a couple of years. I'm not very sure how many years, but you don't have to pay the deposit to become a registered vendor with the government, and they can procure their things from you. So this is the way that an incubator actually helps. Now, incubators are usually focused on a particular area. Some are agnostic and they just help in whatever field you want, and some are gender focused, like I talked to you about, Aleep. Some are, CIEEEEITH is focused on IT and deep tech, machine learning, AI, computer vision. So they have their certain focuses, right? And of course the CCIMB incubator over here is totally focused on biotech and science firms. So you have the BioNest, which it comes with the big, that is the grant that comes from biotechnology, which is called as a BioNest. And this big grant, as it is BIRAC, BRICAC, BIRAC, RAC, sorry, is a grant that gives you to start anything in science and biology and technology, that part. So when you look at all these incubators, they are there to nurture startups in particular areas, or they are sector focused. Now, what should be the structure of an incubator? An incubator should be a registered entity, which means it has to be a standalone. It cannot be a part of, to be eligible for many of the schemes and to be, a part of the schemes and grants that any organization is going to give them. They have to be a separate entity who can enter into a contract. So this registered, and it can be a registered cooperative society under the Societies Registration Act, or it can be a Section 8 company under the Companies Act. Usually they opt for the second one, but successful incubators have all in earlier years have been more a part of the society. One of the best practices says that when an incubator is registered under the society, the performance is much better. But then we are looking at creating a social impact, and therefore that becomes a better structuring for an incubator. When you're looking at the difference between an accelerator and incubator, and you'll see that these words are more often used interchangeably, but there is a very stark difference. And the one difference that I can straight away tell you is incubator gives space, accelerator does not. Okay, today we have virtual incubation where companies are registered with an incubator which has a location, and but they work remotely, and all communications and for all purposes the address of the incubator is given, and all official communications between them and their parties and customers and vendors all come through the incubator address. Now that is virtual incubation. But when you talk about an accelerator, accelerators are short-term programs. Okay, now there's a different kinds. If you look at this particular slide, if you look at the purpose, basically incubators nurture, whereas accelerator propel. So accelerators are usually short-term programs which are given to boost the startup in a quick time. They give, like it's your multi-dose vitamin shot that is given to you, or a dose of glucose that is given to you so that you jump faster. So that is what an accelerator is. And usually incubators are with ideation companies, whereas accelerators usually deal with high growth startup companies which are ready to move on to the growth stage, where they've crossed the chasm and want to propel into high growth. If you look at the time, incubation, as I told you, runs for a year to 6 years sometimes, but accelerators only for 3 months to 6 months, max 3 to 4 months, right? And incubators basically help startups even when they are slow growing, but accelerators require that participants be scalable, investable, and fast growing. Usually accelerators target those organizations or those startups that can scale very fast, and that is why these accelerators choose and pick, whereas an incubator will help any startup provided they meet the criterions. Usually incubator does not take an equity, but some of the incubators do take rent. Okay, and some incubators take a stake in the equity, right? Accelerators invest money in exchange for equity. So acceleration programs can happen with equity stake, or with accelerator fees also is also taken. So both these have this, but in case of a campus incubator, usually money is not collected from startups, and very few, only the mature incubators actually take a stake. But invariably for the students it's free, and from the alumni some amount is collected. But how campus incubators work is, over a period of time, when the time is up and the startups are still not leaving the incubator, that's when they start charging the rent. So these are the various ways an incubator. Please understand that an incubator is a separate entity, and therefore it needs to make a revenue. And how can it sustain by itself? Incubators just can't sustain only on grants. It has to make money. Bale, the government will give some money to start off the incubator, or there will be a company that sponsors to start off an incubator. The top management may put in some money and you can start off on the PPP mode. But for the daily expenses of the incubator, to run the incubator, you can't continuously give free. So you need to start making money to sustain the incubator. So one of the things that really required is the incubator's revenue model. Incubators make money in 3 ways. One is by getting rent from the startups. Number 2, by getting commission from some of the facilitators that are linked to the startup. To the incubator, like the accounting firm or the legal firms and all that stuff. Number 3, they get money sponsored by large companies. So there'll be a lot of the CSR funds of big companies that are that sponsor specific startups and help the incubator to focus on a particular area of startups, so that they can harvest these startups for their sake. So such type of sponsoring funds also are income to the incubators. So accelerators, on the other hand, always charge and it could be either the fees or a stake in the equity. And then it's a very short 6 months max program where they are given intense coaching, counseling, and help of all with milestones, and then they graduate out of the accelerator program with definite definite rewards that or milestones achieved that they have set forth. What are the key ingredients basically for the success of an incubator? Location, a strong sponsor, as I already told you, not for profit, having a great mission and objectives. There should be a clear entry and an exit route for the tenants. Now, this is very important. When you are talking about an entry, what are the criterions for a startup to be taken into the incubator, and after how long, and what are the signs that they have to exhibit in order to exit out? The incubator should have a strong advisory and mentoring board, facilities which the shared facilities should be state of art, access to capital, which in terms of either seed capital or access to venture capitalists, angels, and other formats. Like the IIIT has got its own IIT seed fund, which is then given to the startups that come there. Access to alliances that you can, help. So there is a lot of, in a campus incubator, there's a lot of back and forth. So some of the top emerging technologies that are researched by faculties are then transferred into commercial activity by these startups. Students also act as interns for these startups in the incubator. So in a campus incubator, it becomes a win-win because the emerging students who before graduation get an exposure by interning and by working on real-time projects. And for the startups, they get cheap labor. And for the professors, they get their research work validated and put into an application format. So there's a lot of sustainable strategies that are to be maintained. First of all, the revenue model for an incubator has to sustain it. That is the first thing that you need to look. And one-stop facility where you get everything. So please understand, for an incubator to start showing success, it requires about 3 to 5 years. And you need to have a whole, and today the trend is of course virtual incubators. Today there's a lot of peer guarantees that are happening. That is, within the incubator, the inmates help one another. Sometimes they even collaborate and start ventures. And today we have internet kiosks where in the incubator, you don't have the entire space, but you just come and borrow one chair for 1 hour or 2 hours, things like that. You can just use today, right? Only for inmates to, now it's become like, you can go to the cafe, sit, and you can, book the table for 1 day or 1 hour. The things like that are now possible. And when you're looking at seed funding, we already talked. One of the things that they do is they do a lot of training, specific trainings, programs, mentoring platform, one-to-one expert advice. Most important is they link. So in a campus incubator, especially, they bring all their alumni and experts, and they have a lot of these things. And when you look at, I already talked to you about campus interns. These are all capacity building for the incubator. And when you're looking at, the incubator itself will partner with a lot of corporates, will partner with some of the industry associations and all this. And that makes the incubator more robust. There are different stages in an incubation. There is a pre-incubation. So before you enter incubation and the incubator will do a lot of research, and they will do, evaluate what are the criterions that are required for you to get incubated. Are you ready for incubation? That is the pre-incubation work. Once they register you, then the early stage work starts, where they help you with marketing, technical, and other legal advices. Once that initial thing is over, then the classic work starts, where they basically fund you, help you network, and support you in all other ways. Post that is your exit or graduation, where you close and you become a standalone. So in all these stages, the incubator helps a startup to go through all these things. So as I told you, there are different kinds. They focus, some are general, some are technology focused, some are only focused on training, empowerment, women incubators, corporate incubators. We saw all this. What are the challenges of incubators? Basically, how do you build the pipeline? Very, very, very important. I know of a particular incubator out here where the college said, if we do take the government funds and we do build an incubator, we need to know how to fill it, because when you build an incubator with government funds, you need to show action. You need to show a certain minimum amount that needs to be in the incubator. And most of the campuses, to find this and fill this becomes very, very difficult. And therefore, how do you build the pipeline? This means before you start an incubator in your campus, it's primary that you do the first 3 phases of your incubation. That is the first 3 phases of your startup ecosystem, which I talked to you in the morning. And once the campus becomes mature and starts churning out student ventures, and that's when the campus should invest in an incubator. Another way is also by creating the incubator, but taking in people from outside, ventures from outside, not only for campus, but also for people outside the campus. One of the challenges is the location. Since these incubators are located in colleges which are in a little far off places, startups find it difficult to come, though the college buses are available. So there are many of these challenges. There is also a vision match challenge. So the top management would want the incubator in a particular field, or would like to have it agnostic to any field, but you will find that you're getting startups from one particular area only, because that particular area is more prevalent in that location. So the focus, there would be a lot of administrative hiccups as to who should manage, should they be a part of the college, and so on and so forth. One of the basic criterion for a successful incubator is the fact that since it's a standalone entity, faculties should not be heading the incubator. The incubator manager should be a not faculty, which means if you are a faculty, you should give up your teaching and then solely devote yourself to the incubator. That is what it means. It means a 24 hours devotion to the incubator, and no teaching as a part of this would help. So in campus incubators, it becomes usually the campus incubator is headed by a faculty and the initiative. And once the incubator starts shaping up, they find it difficult to give up this, and therefore they then shift to becoming the incubator manager. So this is one of the most important, and also the one of the criterions for the funds to come for an incubator is to have a devoted 24 hours devoted incubation manager. So sometimes the government gives support only for a couple of years, and then the incubator itself has to stand on its own foot. That's a foot, which is why I said you need to have a revenue model. And once the government support is withdrawn, then the incubator becomes shaky and they don't have money for surviving. And it becomes a very expensive proposition to maintain an incubator, and therefore the revenue model, as I already told you, needs to be very robust. What are the benefits? The odds of survival goes up for startups, and corporates are more confident to deal with startups that are incubated in well-known academic campuses, and therefore they become more bold to make contracts with, oh, you are incubated in this college, oh well, and they get more confidence, and the local standing of the startups go up. And of course the government also can channelize their funds towards systematic ecosystem building. So market support, infrastructural support, and policy support is all what they give. Other supports like legal services, accounting, vocational training, these are all the other support, IPR support, intellectual property. So The best practices for incubation is to have a written mission statement, selecting the clients based on cultural fit, very, very important. Having a policy, incubator policy, that's very, very, very important. Okay. And setting it in black and white, and creating a system, and creating a methodology by which a startup can enter, be selected based on the criterion, register, avail the services, and live there, and then graduate out of it. These are some of the top performing incubators. They are not for profit, as I already told you, and they provide about 10 to 30, and the range of the space is about 4,000 square feet, right? And we already saw all these things. We've already talked about all these things. Okay. So factors that affect the effectiveness is, again, how much space are you willing to give for the incubator, how much of networking you're you're institutionalizing. Networking is knowing somebody, but when you network and institutionalize that network, which means you create deliberate group of people who meet, like your Rotary is your network, Rotary Club is a networking institution, right? So, or your BNI. So all these like that, you need to institutionalize the networking in a incubator, and matching the capabilities and the resources, configuring the portfolio of startups that are going to be incubated. Why portfolio? You need to know, as I told you, the focus. Is your portfolio full of only science startups, or food startups, or IT startups, like that? And what is the investment? I already talked to you about these phases, and the fourth phase is your incubator phase. Now, how to set up a campus incubator is first to find a fit between the clubs that you have created and the classes that you do, and the ultimate phase 4. And as usual, map your landscape, create an incubator policy. Now, this is where I'm going to concentrate a bit. This is a written document, and it has to be written, and it becomes like your, a proper deed which needs to be followed, and the rules, regulations, policies, everything will come under the incubator policy. And who is the team that are going to run the incubator, and start up the resources, how much is the top management contributing, how much is the government contributing through some scheme or the other, or is there a private sponsor? So if you look at the livelihood incubator of PSGR Krishnammal, it's totally sponsored by the GRG Trust, and we have it in Annur, and we help the livelihoods of the micro and small women entrepreneurs, and it's focused on food. And they teach them baking, they teach them solar drying and powdering of a lot of these spices and all these things. So when you look at such type, these are basically targeted towards making a social impact. And to top it, the college has also created a food processing lab, state of art, where food can be tested by any of the food processing units. So you need to build these linkages, industry linkages, where you need to have collaborations with some of the top industrial things, so that they also send forth. And you need to have this particular linkages with helpers in terms of labor. You need to have linkages in terms of administration facilities and all this, funding. And you need to have a cohort size. Very important is to know the number who can be housed at a time, and mentors, and quarterly checks, and the curriculum that will take. That means when a startup enters the incubator, they should know what are the things in month 1, month 2, month 3, like that. The calendar of activities need to be worked out. Here are some guiding links on incubator policy and various things about the incubator. And I'm now open for questions. Okay. No questions. Fair enough. But I have a question for you as usual. Again, if you don't ask me questions, I'm going to ask you questions. So all of you have attended this program for last 5 days. And what is that one learning which you're going to convert into a behavior and apply in your daily life as a faculty? What is that one learning that you are going to apply in your daily life, teaching life? Perseverance. Okay. As an entrepreneur. Okay. Anybody else? Creativity. Yes. Newer and newer ways of solving problems. Guiding and motivating students. Okay. Persistence. Motivate your students. How do you motivate students? So you have learned a lot on pedagogies, how to teach, especially in online teaching is today one of the biggest challenges as faculties face. Positive reinforcement. Yes. Yes. Okay. Fair enough. And creating entrepreneurial environment at the institute. Yes. Building your ecosystems. Many of you may or may not be a part of your ecosystem, but I strongly advise you that even if you are not formally a part of your entrepreneurial ecosystem in your college or in your campus, as individuals, you can contribute because entrepreneurial minds are creative minds. And if you do this, you are contributing to the wealth creation in our country. God bless each one of you. All the best. Bye-bye. I'm done.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for the session. Hope all of you got a lot of learning after listening to ma'am. We are proud to say that ma'am is alumna of Krishna Mal College, and we are so happy to host her back at our program. Thank you, ma'am, for your time and for sharing your knowledge with all.